Hello, everyone. We are here with Roxanne Shaw-Galindo, who is one of the participating artists in La Santera's Images of Faith and Folklore that's being featured at the Harwood Museum in Taos, New Mexico. This exhibition is co-curated by Gustavo Victor Goller and Harwood curator Nicole Ashley Dial-Kay. So how are you, Roxanne?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm going to ask you, where were you raised and where do you live now?
So I'm from Colorado. I was born in Denver and I was raised in a mountain town called Nederland, which is about 45 miles west of Denver. And I was raised there till I was 5. And my mom and dad, we moved down to Boulder so we could go to school down there. And then as soon as I graduated, I headed back up to the mountains and I've lived here since.
Cool. Now, I know that you have a little bit of family history in southern Colorado. Is that correct?
That's correct. My grandmother on my mom's side, she was born and raised in the San Luis Valley. She had a home in Las Mesitas, which is just a little bit, I would say, west of Antonito. Mm-hmm. And all her family and them, they lived there for many years. And cousins, long lost cousins. That
I remember meeting someone, Rubel.
Rubel Jaramillo. He was one of my mom's mentors. That kind of helped her start this work as well.
So tell me, how many years have you been an artist and how did you become an artist?
So I started painting when I was 14. That year was 1994. I'd gone to Spanish Market for the first time with my mom and just check it out, check the show out. And it was the first time that I got to see, like, wow, there's youth artists in the show. And so I was like, I'm going to do this. Why not give it a try? And so even though I, watched my mom for many years painting, I think that was the one thing that kind of initiated me to be like, I could do this as a youth artist. There's all these youth artists. Let me give it a try. And so I started painting in 94. And then in 1995 was the first year I participated in the youth market and Spanish Market.
How old were you then?
15.
15, wow. Yeah, that's pretty young. So I know your mom is obviously an artist. Was anyone else in your family an artist?
Doing this type of artwork, there's a great deal of my mom and dad know everybody by name. Unfortunately, I'm kind of bad at remembering them. But I just think that Rubel, he was the one that really helped my mom. And we spent a lot of time in his studio in Las Mesitas, just working with him and carving with him in the very early years when we started doing this art form.
Cool. Did you have any other influences from maybe Spanish market artists and that maybe affected your work or helped you sort of create the style that you have today?
And that would be it.
Right.
I think it's been one of the tremendous milestones of my career being an apprentice under you, doing the developing artist program that was offered by SCAS,
right?
Where it allowed me to apprentice with you for 40 hours. And I think I don't know if it was your decision or our decision, but since I kind of already knew how to paint, we decided, let's learn how to carve, since I never knew how to carve before. And just having that being like my new step towards this artwork, all of my retablos before then were all just flat, no carvings, just flat. Right. And being able to learn that new technique allowed me to do even, the concave flowers, the convex flowers, some art carving relief, like those lovely curtains behind that piece of yours. Doing curtains like that has been great joy and knowledge learning how to do that. And I learned that from you.
Thank you. No, it just adds more detail to the pieces and, makes them more interesting rather than just flat, right? So you consider yourself more of a painter than you would a carver, I assume. And do you explore any other different mediums or techniques in the cultural arts of New Mexico? I
have, so besides painting and then carving, I've done a little bit of furniture making. So carving wooden chests. I carved my daughter's dresser when I was pregnant. I carved these beautiful flowers on them. So I've done some furniture making, and I'm still trying to do more relief carving, just of santos, just to give it a different direction. I've done some bultos, probably about 6. Right. So I would love to do more bultos. It's just more time consuming. And I feel like every time I'm doing it, it's like a new learning experience of like, how am I going to make this nose the right size? It's just been more experimenting with it.
Right. It's kind of scary because it's a reductive process, right? So you're removing this material, and if you go too much, I mean, there's ways to repair things, but it is a little more daunting. As far as your materials are concerned, do you use traditional materials? Do you crush your own pigments, make your own varnish and gessos, or do you use other materials that are more contemporary?
I still use, majority of them are traditional methods. I do have coaching meal that I will crush and make into a beautiful red pigment color. And then just from there, I just mix and make my own palette. So it's just like when you go to school and learn how to make blue, green, and yellow. So I'll just use, sometimes I'll use commercial paints because I find them a little easier to use. But it varies. Like my mom will make paints and she'll give it to me, and then I'll like, wow, I could use it. And I make a batch of a different color of it. So I like to make and mix my own colors. We do our own pinon sap picking that we've been doing for years.
There's pinon trees in Colorado?
No, every time we go to New Mexico, it's always that we have to pull over for 2 hours and just go hiking for pinon. I mean, we've found so many different spots and tried so many different areas.
Right.
The closest in Colorado, which we can do, is Buena Vista. We've done that there too, picking pinon sap there. But mostly New Mexico.
Oh, no, I have found it in Colorado, like by Gardner, sort of tucked over there by Walsenburg somewhere. But can you describe your work a little bit and sort of your thought process, how you arrive to a theme, or how you design your pieces? Do you sketch them? Do you do research?
I do a little bit of both. I do sometimes, especially if it's a larger piece, I will definitely sketch it out to see, what I'm trying to make. I think my process is like when I have like 15 boards, I'm running out of boards, I'm going to make 15 boards. I'll design them, I'll lay them out, then I start carving them. And I think at that step is when I start to think about it, like, who am I going to paint on this saint? Like, what would be a good saint that will fit this piece? And a lot of the times I'll even just get a pencil out and I'll just sketch on the wood board just to give me an idea, especially to see if it's enough size is good. Right. And then, of course, I have to sand it off before I gesso it. But then I always kind of remember, I'm going to paint that saint because I originally thought just from that very beginning, I'm going to paint that saint. I also like to paint saints near or around their feast days. So,
that's interesting.
A Catholic calendar, and every month when you flip it over, so like this month it's Mary Magdalene, and I've only painted one of her, so I'm like, and her feast day is tomorrow, the 22nd, so I'm going to start painting tomorrow. And then I started a Santiago because his feast day is the 25th. So same thing, I hope to get him done by his feast day. I just think it's very important to paint them because, we honor them on their feast days.
Feast day, right. I think that's really cool. I like that idea. Do you have any memorable projects or awards that stand out for you or that were important to you that may be a milestone?
I think, when you're in the youth market, my first year in the youth market, I won 2 awards, and I was like, wow, I'm already giving awards in the youth market. And then my first year juried in as an adult was in 2000, and I did an altar screen. And I think that would probably be my most memorable award because I was so young, being 20, and going into preview and seeing the blue ribbon. And I was like, wow, I won first place. My first year as an adult, I won first place. And I remember everybody, congratulating me and saying, wow, way to go, way to go. And I think it was just memorable because here was my piece, and then there was Arlene's piece that won second place. And I was and she was very kind and, congratulated me. But I was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting it, like my first year. Like I really wondered if other artists got an award their first year as an adult market.
It's better to not expect an award and get one. If you go in there thinking I'm going to win and then it doesn't happen, it's like, oh.
I think that's so true because it's a down player if you think that way, and then it just makes you all upset.
Was this award, was it for first place?
Huh?
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. We have a little delay. Was this first place for altar screens?
They actually didn't, that year it was for retablos because they didn't actually, that year they still didn't have that category. Right. So just for retablos.
So that was, in 2000. So you've already been in an adult Spanish market now for 20 years.
Yes.
Wow. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
So do you consider yourself an artist or a santera?
Consider myself an artist. I think the main reason why is because, doing this art form, I'm a painter, I designed the piece, I carved the piece, but a lot of the times when people ask me, like, what do you do for a living? And I always say, I have my lovely day job, but then I'm also an artist. And then they're like, oh, you're an artist, what do you do? And then I paint saints. And then I go really into detail about like the whole process because I know like a lot of people don't understand what this art form is. I think saying I'm a santera, I'd have to explain even a lot more.
Right.
I consider myself an artist because I don't just paint saints. I've done some paintings of some landscapes. I've done portraits of animals. So, I paint more than just saints. So I consider myself an artist.
No, I've asked all the artists that same question. Some say that they're straight up santeras. A lot say that they are artists, and that's just what they've been most of their lives anyway.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would like to say about your work or yourself or maybe this exhibition, which I hope we can open to the public someday?
I would just like to say thank you for putting on a show with all these lovely women. It's great that just this group of women are being represented by you and by the Harwood Museum.
Right.
I think that's a great honor to be a part of it. Yes, I'm from Colorado, but my true heart is in New Mexico. And I hope that it does open, and I definitely will go to see it. But I just want to thank you and all the people that have worked hard to continue to do what you're doing on this new side of the Zoom meeting world. Right. And being able to interview all these artists. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your story, Roxanne. And, we'll talk soon. Okay.
Sounds good.